Without crude oil, there would be no need for electricity. It's a pleasure having Ronald Stein, energy consultant, policy advisor for the Heartland Institute. Good afternoon, Ronald. Good afternoon, audience.
Armando, glad to be aboard.
Thank you. You mentioned that oil was discovered before electricity was invented. Please
Correct.
explain a little bit more. I have a picture that shows Rockefeller, 1870, found Standard Oil, and the light bulb was created in 1879, 9 years later. But
Right.
please, your thoughts.
Well, let's go back to pre 1800s. There was no oil, there was no electricity. People didn't live very long. They lived maybe about 40 years of age. When they were born, they very seldom traveled 100 miles from where they were born in their lifespan. And after oil was developed, we were able to make the light bulb because the light bulb was made with oil products. And everything has changed. And in 200 years, which is not a very long period of time, we've accomplished quite a bit. We've learned how to change that black tar looking oil into something usable. And with the refining process that it goes through, they beat it, they crack it, they heat it, they cool it, they do all sorts of strange things to it. But out of that processing, they get a lot of derivatives, petrochemicals, that makes all the products in our daily lives. These products didn't exist 200 years ago. You take everything for granted. Take a look in your house, the hospital, the workplace, trying to identify something that was not made with, petrochemicals or transported made somewhere else and transported through a transportation system. And today we got transportation systems, cars, trucks, planes, jets, you name it. And these didn't exist. Right, the ships. We can, grow anything in any country and just ship it to a different country. The shipping industry is amazing because, today we got, there's 50,000 merchant ships moving products all over the world. And there's, 50,000 jets in the world. There's 20,000 military jets in the world. And these didn't exist 200 years ago. And again, all the parts for the jets, all the parts for the ships, they're also made with oil derivatives. So, 200 years ago was a different world. And like I say, before oil, there was no electricity because today, everything that needs electricity is made with the petrochemicals. Mm-hmm. The iPhone is made with petrochemicals. The defibrillator in the hospital is made with petrochemicals. Yeah. The mixer, the washer, the dryer, they need electricity, but they wouldn't exist if they weren't made with petrochemicals. So, right. Everything that needs electricity is made with petrochemicals.
Yeah. You mentioned in your article that the world continues to be focused on electricity to save the world from crude oil. Very interesting.
Well, I think the confusion is people are relating wind and solar. They're calling wind and solar energy, and they're calling oil energy. But Armando, they do different things. Wind and solar can generate electricity. They can manufacture nothing for society. Yeah. If they manufacture electricity, they might be able to charge the iPhone, but they can't make the iPhone. And whereas oil is almost never used to generate electricity. Coal is, natural gas is, but oil is extremely seldom ever used to generate electricity. They do different things. And that's the confusion, I think, among our policymakers is they're saying that wind and solar energy is going to replace fossil fuel energy. But like I say, we got to distinguish between electricity and products.
Your proposal is to separate energy into two real things: electricity one side and products another side.
Exactly, exactly. Because wind and solar, you can put as much wind and solar out as you want,
Mhm.
but again, it's only generating electricity. And if you get rid of crude oil, there'll be nothing to electrify.
So this is interesting because wind, solar, nuclear, biomass, everything of these energies are only for electricity. The only one that can provide products for manufacturing process to have, as you call, the consumer society we have nowadays,
Yeah,
is oil. Oil from the refining process that providing naphtha and other products.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, we're a very materialistic society. And as I mentioned before, I would love to get rid of crude oil if I don't like it, but there's no backup plan. We have no backup plan to
No,
be able
that's right.
to make the iPhones and the defibrillators without the petrochemicals. So yeah, right now it's a very viable necessity of life, and I mean that's driving the economies of every country and every nation.
Mhm, mhm. Let me move to another point, please. Talking a little bit about California, the country called California. that
Okay,
you, so there are three or four shipping ports, very very big shipping ports: Los Angeles, Long Beach, Auckland,
Oakland. Yeah,
Oakland,
those are
Oakland.
three of the 10 largest ports in the country. Three of them are here on the West Coast.
Uh-huh. So ships are departing and arriving in these ports, and
Continuously, yes.
yeah, which kind of fuel they use for these movements?
They use a bunker fuel, which is a lower grade fuel. Um, it's easier to manufacture out of the refineries. In addition to those three large ports, California's a big state. Up and down the state, there's like 140 airports. But of the 140, let's focus on the really, really important ones. 9 of them are international airports. 40 of them are military airports. And, today, California is importing more than 60% of its crude oil to the in-state refineries to make the fuels for the ports and for the international airports and for the military from foreign-based oil. And we've been decreasing in-state oil production since 1995. We've gone through a lot of governors, and those governors have gone through, Pete Wilson, Gary Davis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ed Brown, and now we got, Governor Gavin
All
Newsom.
Democrats.
No, no, I think Schwarzenegger was a Republican,
Oh,
and I'm not sure of Gray Davis.
mhm.
But regardless, I mean, all the governors are just following the same pattern, reduce in-state production. And Gavin Newsom, he wants to be the best of the best. So he's ordered all regulatory action to end issuance of any permits for fracking by January of 24, which is only another month away. And he's requested the California Air Resources Board to analyze pathways to phase out oil extraction across the state no later than 2045. So he's, on the same path. He wants to continue to reduce in-state oil production. And if demand's going up, there's more international flights, there's more ships coming in, more military flights. The demand keeps going up, and we'll be depending more and more and more on foreign countries for this oil. So, being the fourth largest economy in the world, we're a national security risk for the entire country.
Security, for sure, for sure, for sure. But they keep the refining process. They do not have the production, oil production. Is it right? No.
That's right. Yeah, the refineries. I think that's the AQMD
But
Air Quality Management
what's
District
the
would probably
logic?
want to get. There
Yeah,
is no
but what's the
logic,
logic for
Armando.
that?
You can't bring logic into this discussion.
Sorry, asking for logic for this kind of people. So, but governors are influenced by someone because I cannot understand how different persons like these governors, 4 or 5 that you mentioned, follow the same pattern. Why?
Well, the four governors before Newsom, I don't think they knew about renewables. They really weren't around at that time. Um, but they were on a mission to, like I say, reduce in-state oil production and import it from a foreign country.
Mhm.
And today we have renewables, and now the misinterpretation is renewables are going to replace oil. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, they do different things.
Yeah,
Wind and solar can't do what oil does.
can do, of course. And you mentioned in your article, I suppose, I'm not totally sure, that California has 140 airports.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of small airports, like I say,
Oh,
small private planes, but yeah, I guess you got to classify them as an airport. But when you get down to the major airports, there's 9 international airports that, planes come in here and they go to, Australia, England, wherever,
yeah, sure.
Brazil.
To
It's
Brazil, to the
a
east.
lot of flying time and need a lot of fuel. And, the fuel is made here in California, but you can't make it without crude oil.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that I would like. I would love to have a discussion with the governor to find out, his thought pattern as to why you want 9 international airports and 40 military airports and 3 of the largest shipping terminals in the world that are basically driving this country with all products and everything. And what's the logic to have that supported by foreign oil? And most of those
Yeah.
countries don't like us. And we saw, you probably saw it in the news, but one of the key freeways had a fire underneath it, and it damaged the freeway and it shut it down. Well, it pretty much paralyzed central Los Angeles. And any uneducated person could see the similar situation with our dependency on foreign crude oil to drive the state, which is driving the country and has a big impact on the world with all the international flights. And like I say, you paralyze one of the ports or slow it down, you're going to start seeing shortages and inflation of everything. And people will be scrambling. But it's demand keeps going up, and the supply is going down of crude oil.
And the thoughts are for the net zero. I suppose they are focusing in this vision, but at the same time, reducing production, reducing refiners, and allowing Asia to increase in 80 new refiners.
Right, right. Like I say, there's everybody wants net zero emissions, and that's the driving force. And I tell people we had a net zero society back in the 1800s when there was no oil, there was no power plants. Um, and that's what they want to go to, because there's no reason to have wind and solar generating electricity if you got nothing to electrify. And like I say, the washers and dryers and the refrigerators, these came into, I guess, reality in like the 1900s. The like I say, our lifestyle is so dependent on all these materialistic things that we just take for granted. But if you start getting rid of crude oil, you're going to probably have a supply shortage of a lot of the products that are made with the oil. So it's a catch-22. And again, there's no discussions. People want to go net zero, and that's anything goes to net zero. And the interesting thing about going to net zero is, yeah, we import crude oil from other countries, and I know the Air Quality Management District here in California would love to get rid of the refineries.
Yeah.
These are of the 700 refineries in the entire world, the 13 in California are the cleanest in the world, but they want to get rid of them because of emissions. Well, if they do that, we're not only we'll stop importing crude oil, we'll be importing the actual products, the fuels and the petrochemicals from people like China, who's building 88 new refineries. China doesn't have any oil, but they got a lot of good friendships with OPEC and Russia. The people that we're not too friendly with.
Yeah. Let me share a comment from someone in LinkedIn user. We cannot know who is this, but looking great. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, is he referring to you or me?
Of course, for you, not for me. I'm only the moderator. The
Okay.
thoughts are yours.
Okay.
But let me ask you: only California in the United States has this kind of concept, or are there more states with the same trend?
More states. Biden is trying to do something similar for the entire country.
Oh,
Like I say, I think people look at California, boy, they would like to clone California for the rest of the 49 states. And, we have a pretty inflationary economy here in California. It's so inflationary that, the cost of electricity is going up, the cost of fuel is going up. That's driving up the cost of hamburgers. And so, the unions are going on strike. They need more money
yeah.
so they can afford to buy the hamburgers. And it's just it's feeding itself. And when they get a raise, we have, people in burger places making 20, $25 an hour.
Mhm.
Where Mondo, that's going to raise the cost of the hamburger. And so like I say, it just perpetuates itself, and
Yeah,
it's never ending. And
yeah,
it's very inflationary, and Biden doesn't want to back off. He would like to get rid of oil, and he wants more wind and more solar. But again, there's California is the most temperate state in the country because we don't get too hot, we don't get too cold. Except for the mountains, which get snow. We don't get a lot of rain, but other states, they get a lot of snow. They get a lot of rain and wind and extreme temperatures, and it's and also a lot of the other states are not as condensely populated. In California we have a lot of condensed population, so there's charges everywhere. But you go to some of the other states, Nebraska, Texas, and there's a lot of open land, and then you get range anxiety, which is a good thing to be anxious about because there may not be a
yeah.
charging station in sight.
That's right. That's right. The person is complimenting both of you. Thank you so much from my side. Thank you. And probably the same person because we do not know the name exactly. No, please don't clone California. Leave the voters there. Yeah,
I agree with
it's
that.
perfect. Yeah. Another comment here. Do you think the new commitments with Biden and Xi to eliminate fossil fuels will actually do anything? That's a good
Well, like I
question.
say, if you eliminate fossil fuels, you're going back to the 1800s. There were no fossil fuels then. And the interesting thing is, people forget that of the 8 billion people on this planet, 80% of them are making less than $10 a day. It's only
Yeah.
the wealthy countries that are pushing this green movement to renewables for intermittent electricity. But the more than 6 billion people, they have no electricity. I mean, they can't subsidize themselves out of a paper bag.
And they are constructing in China more than 80, no, in Asia, more than 80 new refineries. So
That's
they are
correct.
not
That's correct.
eliminating that.
That's correct. And like I say, their people are poor, and so they're using, coal is a fantastic source of supply for them. It's
No
available,
doubt.
it's abundant, it's affordable, and so they're building a coal-fired power plant almost every day, and to provide electricity. And
Yeah.
these people haven't joined the industrial revolution that we're part of, and that's the distinction that there's a separation. two different societies,
Yeah.
and the people that are not well off and the people that are well off, separation is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's the reason the questions are so good. Is Stuart Turley, so the famous podcaster Stuart Turley, that is
Yes, Stu
making
Turley,
these
yeah, good
comments.
man, yes,
Good man, really
yes.
good. And more one comment. Great answer. Thank you, Stuart. Let me go to but a comment, if you agree or not. So, the energy security of United States are being affected by California behavior.
I think so. To me, it's so obvious when you take a step back and you know, I didn't take a look at how many international airports the entire country has, but when California has international airports and military and shipping ports relying on somebody else's crude oil to come to California so we can make the fuels for the ships and the jets, that's that's I think very dangerous. You know,
Yeah,
the old cliche, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't rid the world of crude oil and continue to enjoy the products that need electricity and the generation of electricity that are all currently made with the petrochemicals manufactured from crude oil that makes all the parts and components
no doubt.
for every method, even nuclear. I mean, all the parts and
Even nuclear,
components
for sure, for sure.
are made with,
Equipment, all parts. Yeah, sure, sure.
yeah. So whatever. There's, like I say, it's a great product, but people tend to look at the emissions and forget about the benefits. And if you want to get rid of the emissions, you're going to get rid of the benefits as well.
Yeah, that's right. Let me go to my last point. Of course, you can bring any point you want because
Okay.
you are doing the show. But the question is the following: how can we interpret the case of a pure oil company, American company, investing wells in lithium production?
Well, lithium, like I say, when the lithium right now, which is being mined primarily in China and South Africa, and it's it's being mined with no labor laws, no environmental laws, and it's strip mining, it's dirty mining, and it's very affordable because they have no labor laws and they don't pay the people anything, and the environmental degradation doesn't matter if we get rid of extract the lithium here, we'll just go to a different site and leave that behind. Here in the wealthy countries, you're going to have to adhere to labor laws. You're going to have to adhere to environmental laws. That's the good news. The bad news is it's going to drive up the cost of lithium, which is going to drive up the cost of the EV. And Armando, you can't afford to drive up the cost of the EV. It's too high now. And so
Too high.
it's, there's no silver bullet answer. I mean, there are opportunities for, lithium to drive some electricity, but you can't get rid of oil because that's providing your products. That's your product supply. So there's no silver bullet answer. It's going to take a lot of everything, and the jurisdiction, the climate. If you're in snow country, if you're in Alaska, I'm not sure wind and solar is going to work in Alaska. If you're here in California, wind and solar
Yeah.
may work, but it's, like you say, there's no silver bullet answer. And they're trying to make one solution for the whole world.
Yeah, that's right.
And they won't have a discussion because it's not possible.
Do you see a trend for other majors, oil companies, big oil, going to the same direction that ExxonMobil is going, drill wells to other types of minerals, for instance, cobalt
Yeah,
and
well, keep in mind, it's a business decision. If they get some subsidies to mine for it, and if they mine the lithium, they've got to, market to sell it. It's a combination of supply and demand. If there's demand, they'll determine where the supply is. And if they can get the supply to meet the demand, it's a business decision. My concern, the current supply of lithium being from developing countries, And the reason Todd Roy and I wrote the book Clean Energy Exploitations is, you know, to me, that's immoral. It's unethical and immoral to basically get the lithium from those countries. It's blood minerals, just like the blood diamonds. And I would love to have them adhere to the labor laws. You know, Exxon would adhere to the labor laws. But yeah, if we could, quote, clean up the act of the exotic minerals and metals, then it would be ethical and moral. It'd be a business decision, to meet the demand. And if the EVs, continue to sell, there will be a demand for lithium. If they don't, then the demand for lithium is going to, subside. So a lot of it depends on if the EVs will catch on with, I'm going to say with the non-elites. Because the elites have bought them. The elites will continue to buy them. But I think we're getting to the point, Armando, we're running out of elites. We're getting down to the common working folks that don't have multi-car families and, don't have higher education and, high income. And, they're just, surviving. And I think the next couple of years is going to be really challenging on the EV market because I think you're going to start seeing the EVs building up on the lots. Ford had mentioned they're losing like $60,000 on every EV they sell. And yeah, it's, getting down to the general public, I have reservations that it's going to be accepted by them. And if it's not accepted by them, these automobile manufacturers aren't manufacturing gasoline cars anymore. And so the used car market for gasoline cars will continue to increase. So there's a lot of challenges in the years ahead. But with all the inflationary actions, people are having a hard time buying a burger and fries. You want them to buy an EV now? Well, that's a little bit more expensive than the burger.
No doubt. Extremely more expensive. Yeah. There's a comment from Robert. Great topic. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Let me go to my last question for you, please, Ronald Stein.
But Armando, the conversation we're having today, it's in layman's terms. And my passion is to get the common folk to talk about energy at the dinner table. And there's a lot of common sense that can be discussed. And I think the biggest problem we have today in the policies is there's no conversations.
But why? My point, is a diagnosis as well. You know that people are not talking enough to understand themselves. But why? My question is why?
I keep asking myself the same question. As I mentioned before, we got a lot of military generals report to President Joe Biden, Army, Navy, military, Marines, the Air Force, the space program. Not one has asked Joe Biden, how are we going to run our military without fuel and without products?
Yes.
And it's the same, it just goes from there, just down to the common folk. And, like I say, we're a very materialistic society. And I mentioned I would love to get rid of crude oil if there is a replacement, because I don't want to give up the washer and dryer and the freezer and the barbecues and, all the stuff that's available to us. So there's got to be a discussion. And if we can start talking about it at the dinner table, the press, I'm amazed. The press, like the military, never asked the question. We're talking about California and the fact that, Governor Newsom wants to further decrease in-state oil production so we can increase oil imports for the international airports, the military, and the shipping terminals. And
increase independence. Yeah.
But the press is not even asking the question.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. My last question for you is, are you planning to run for governor 2024?
No.
I was expecting that you answer yes, but...
I think I'm too intelligent.
It's too much risk to take.
Well, I would love to have the discussions. If you're going to set a policy, just to reduce emissions and destroy the economy, you have to have, a compromise. And no, I would just love to have a discussion with Joe Biden. I would love to have a discussion with Governor Newsom and any other politician, but
But
like I
are they
say,
open to that? Are
no,
they receive?
no,
No, no,
no,
no.
no, no. Al Gore has been, he started a lot of this, when he was vice president, and he's been invited to, participate in conversations, but he'll give a presentation, but he won't have a discussion.
Oh my God. They avoid this kind of interaction.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably.
I would love to have their answer to these questions. And like I say, to me, it's obvious that if they really stick to the guns that they're, promoting,
Yeah.
we're going back to the 1800s. They had no emissions. Well, they had horse manure.
Ronald Stein, was a great pleasure again to meet you, to talk, and to learn with your thoughts and experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Armando. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.